rocket science. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see.
And I thought it was very important for us to have a conversation around the things that are going on. There are people out here that are actually doing the work possible to affect change. Protest is important. I think everything can be a part of what we're doing, but now we want to take responsibility to keep those efforts going and keep those efforts moving. So we have some great panelists on the call right now, and they will be introduced very shortly. But right now, I want to introduce everyone to our facilitator, Cheyenne McGregor. She is going to be asking questions and setting the tone for our call today. She is a communication specialist for Black Business Orlando. And outside of that, she's a nonprofit leader. So she does nonprofits in Orlando. She helps you set up with her business, the nonprofits. She is the director of grants and communications for Early Learning Coalition in Seminole and the CEO of her business. Welcome, Cheyenne. Thank you so much for being on the call today.
Thank you, Patrona. Can everyone hear me okay? Thumbs up. Good. I want to thank you and everyone, each of you, for to have what we believe is a very important conversation for our community. I want to introduce to you our special speakers for the evening, but before that, I just want to lay out some house rules for tonight's meeting. Just as a reminder, as you can see, your mics will be on mute as others are speaking, just to avoid unnecessary noise. But you can see at the bottom of your screen, we will be accepting questions through the chat box, and we will be checking that periodically throughout the meeting and working our way to insert those questions as often as we can from you. Also note that this is being recorded, so hopefully with the intention of sharing this in the near future for those of us who cannot join and to be able to view it at your leisure later on. So I'd like to now introduce our special guest speakers who are from our community, starting with Pernell Bush. He is the managing partner at KEY Counseling Solutions, as well as the president and CEO at No Limit Health and Education. He's also a former U.S. Marine and social worker, but right now he is currently running for the Democratic ticket for the Seminole County Commission District 5. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Pernell. We also have on the line Will Carey. Will is the founder and CEO of Marketing with Will, as well as the founder at Central Florida Deals, and a former staff sergeant in the U.S. Army, among many other things. Will, thank you for being with us here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're also fortunate to have Miles Moraine Jr. He is a longtime community advocate, if you don't already know the name, an Orlando native from the Pine Hills area. He is the CEO of the Pine Hills nonprofit, Let Your Voice Be Heard, Incorporated. But you might have seen him over the last few days as well, or heard from him in the media and on the cover of the Orlando Sentinel, as he helped to gather others at the Windermere home of the officer who murdered George Floyd, as he and others demonstrated and demanded justice for George Floyd. We are very grateful to have you with us here tonight, Miles. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Also on the line, or at least he is scheduled to join us shortly, Ramsey Razard. He is the CEO of In the Mirror media company rather. Ramsey Razard is a well-known entrepreneur in the entertainment and film industry. As an entrepreneur, host, and speaker, he strives to create a positive atmosphere while finding great joy in impacting the hearts of people. So we're happy to have his light and spirit on the line with us tonight, hopefully for some encouragement and upliftment. And then finally, last but not least, we have Miss Monique Worrell. Monique Worrell is an Orlando Winter Garden native and justice reform advocate. Monique Worrell has entered the Orlando State Attorney's race with a bang and advocating for the Black community. She has fought for justice in the community for over 20 years. She brings a holistic perspective on justice from experience as a defense attorney, law professor, assistant state attorney, and chief legal officer. So thank you, Monique, for joining us tonight and accepting our invitation. We know it was under short notice, but we are grateful to have you. Monique, I'm going to pose the first question to you since we know we only have you for a limited time due to your tight schedule. So if you don't mind, I want to start this conversation with you. Monique, you're here? Just want to make sure.
I'm here. Yes, I am.
There she goes. Thank you again. So how have you utilized your platform as well as your legal experience to advocate for the Black community in light of recent events?
So I'm in the car right now. I just left the march downtown. And as I told the crowd there, even if I wasn't running for state attorney, I still would have been here. I've been advocating for criminal justice reform in our community for 20 years. That's my entire career. I started my career as a public defender, fighting for those who could not afford to pay for an attorney. I took that into private practice and to represent people at an affordable rate because I cared more about their justice than I did about the money. I was later recruited to come back to my alma mater, University of Florida, to be a professor. And I went back and built an extensive criminal justice program that has produced many criminal law practitioners across the state and some throughout the country. I left after 17 years to come back to working in Orlando as an assistant state attorney. And there I investigated claims of wrongful conviction and worked on programs to hold police accountable so that things like the murder of George Floyd couldn't happen here. I was met with much opposition by some of the opponents in my race today. And that's why I decided to come back and run for state attorney.
Thank you for sharing that. And so with that said, and knowing your experience and your background, what advice might you give us tonight as far as how each of us may be able to create change through the judicial system as well as legislatively?
So I cannot impress upon everyone enough how important it is not just to vote, but be strategic about your vote. Sometimes we don't want to do the work. We don't want to investigate the names on the ballot, and we ask our friends to tell us who to vote for, or we just go with the familiar name. And what I encourage and implore people to do at this point is understand that we have too much to lose. There is too much at risk, and we must investigate. We have to look at where people have been, not just what they're saying, because they can tell us whatever they want to tell us so that we can give them our votes. But look at their backgrounds, look at their histories, look at what they've done for the community.
Right.
Particularly in this race, because these people have all been involved in the criminal legal system in some way. I'm the only person in this race who has been on the side of reform. So you have to look at the people who are running and know what they stand for and be strategic in your vote so that we can actually bring about change. The state attorney and the sheriff's office and the chief of police, those are the ones who can prevent the tragedies that continue to happen in the murders of Black bodies.
Correct. So we all have our own homework to do, basically, before we just go in that booth and vote. And I know, like we said, you're limited for time, but if you have time for one more question, I believe Miles has something. Great. Okay, good. I believe Miles had one more question he wanted to ask you as well, so I'll give Miles the floor.
Yeah, and I'll just say that I got my chance to first see you today for myself in action and see you speak today at the protest. And I did appreciate to get to see your insight and see how you are. My question is, knowing that you're running for office, knowing that some of us on the ground have helped other people get into different offices in the past, what would you do to make sure that people know that you will actually have an open door for people after you get into office and not so much just use the kind of, not excuse, but use the justification that, well, my hands are tied, because a lot of officials, we get into office and then we ask them to change the same things that they ran their platform on. They say they can't because their hands are tied. and then we're back into the same situation. So what can we hear from you that would kind of ensure that you're going to keep that open door, or make sure that you know, do as much as you can do and not just give us that kind of standard answer?
Absolutely, and thank you for that question because it's totally valid. And listen, I never in a million years thought that I'd be running for state attorney. I never thought of myself as a politician. So this is really all new to me. But I agree with you that we have to hold our elected officials accountable. And we can't just allow people like myself now, right? Because I'm that person who's asking for your vote, to tell us what they're going to do. And then we never see them again until they want us to vote for them again. So what will I do? I will have very regular and frequent community meetings. I will have community involvement in the most important decisions in my office, such as the death penalty. We saw how the death penalty discussion went 4 years ago. I don't intend to allow it to go that way again. I will create a diverse death penalty panel that involves not just prosecutors, but also defense attorneys and members of the community, to allow you to tell me if you think a case is appropriate for the death penalty. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because there are racial disparities in the criminal legal system, and they have not been addressed. In Florida, we've exonerated 29 people off of death row. That's the highest number in the state. That means that we've admitted, in the country. That means that we have gotten it wrong at least 29 times that we've admitted. So I believe that community involvement is a huge part of transparency and accountability. And I will have regular and frequent community meetings where
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, she's speaking too much truth. You must have lost.
Before we get back, I just kind of wanted to, just speak on some of the things that you were saying, Miles, in terms of when they get into office and they get the red tape. I think it's important. I was on a call yesterday and they were speaking about red tape, or that my hands are tied. She's back.
I am back. Sorry about that. I guess I left from Winter Garden to Apopka and the phone didn't like that.
I wanted you to speak on, I was going to make a comment about, I heard a lawyer speaking yesterday on a different Zoom, and she was speaking to she was saying how there is a lot of red tape because there's a lot of legislation that prevents the prosecution of police officers when they do wrong. There's unions that and so when you talk about community involvement and what you could do and what you would do, is there needs to be some form where, when we're fighting these civil right cases because we want justice, a lot of the times the families aren't paying. The money is not there. And so you're doing almost a civil duty, but you're fighting against a giant who has millions in backing. And that's why a lot of our cases, they don't get the justice that they deserve, because we don't have the money to fight. Can you speak to that? Or
So I can't speak to the civil rights part of it because I'm not a civil rights attorney. I can speak to the prosecution part of it.
Sure.
I don't think that there's a lack of prosecution of law enforcement because we can't prosecute them. I think there's a lack of prosecution of law enforcement because we don't want to.
Mm.
And I believe that the Chapter 111 legislation that prosecutors and prosecutor candidates use is an excuse for not prosecuting. There was a law enforcement officer who shot into a car and killed someone in a Marshall's parking lot. And the only underlying crime there was a petty theft of merchandise, not even by the driver of the vehicle, but by his passengers. And that officer shot into the car and killed that guy. And that case, the state attorney herself took that case to the grand jury and received the indictment, and her chief assistant decided not to go forward. That chief assistant is currently running for state attorney. You guys need to know this.
Right.
So I believe that it's excuses not to prosecute because prosecutors want to play favorites and they want to keep harmony. I believe that harmony is kept by doing justice by the community, not by the police.
Mm.
Okay, you heard it. We gotta we have to come out in numbers to support your efforts and to make sure that we have somebody balancing the scales, tipping the scales. We need balance. So thank you for all that you do. Go ahead, Shania.
Definitely, thank you. And that kind of moves the conversation in the direction that we're wanting to go. Miles, I'm going to ask you this next question, and then any of our speakers or panelists who want to piggyback or add to that, please feel welcome to do so. But just again, to what is happening right now and unfolding right before our eyes, we are seeing people like you, Miles, and people all over the country, but of course right here in our own backyard, taking to the street to protest and demand for justice. I want to know, in your opinion, what is the role and function of on the street demonstrations and protesters, and what might be some other functions that also are part of this movement and are other arms and legs of the movement that we should also be aware of and feel we can take part in?
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's important to see that when we see across the country with all these protesters, it's different versions of the protests going on currently. You
Right.
have the first version that might be your organic person who saw it on the internet, you know, took to the streets out of passion, out of just some inclination that they want to do something, and they just flooded to the streets. Then you have another form of people who actually are professionals at this. They shape different stories. They know how to take narratives and take other stories and use it to add momentum to what they're trying to fuel already. Sometimes they're on our side, sometimes they're on their own side. It's up to a personal, you know, your personal interest to decide which one they are. And then you got the other people who are just literally using this opportunity to riot, loot, spread message, infiltrate, and do things of that nature to kind of throw off the balance. You know, it's real important that when we see these protests, we understand what the narrative is and that we don't allow any set of group of people to throw that narrative off. We have 1,000 peaceful protests, but if you turn the news on, all you'll see is the riot and looting. So I think that's one thing I wanted to say is that we got to make sure we stick with our agenda. We know what we're here for. And then we got to understand what the cause is. A lot of people feel like protesting is useless because we've been protesting so long. And I do feel like doing the same thing over and over is a form of insanity. But the actual form of protest doesn't have to be holding a sign. It doesn't have to be yelling in front of a building. It could be through an economic boycott. It could be through voting. It could be through standing at a meeting and showing up. So what we've been working on is doing the protesting because before we got our rights to vote, we had to protest to get that right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And before we got a lot of platforms that you even see nowadays that people are voting on and passing legislation for, people protested and fought for it. Protest is supposed to be disruptive. It's supposed to make the average person going home stop and be like, oh my God, they need to get it together because I didn't do anything. What's going on? And it makes them find out what's the issue and what needs to be done so they can put pressure on the people who need to put the pressure. Mm-hmm. So I think protest is a bridge, it's a road, but it's not the end destination. It's a road that takes us to the next stage. Right now, we're talking about voting. Well, it's June. So we're going to wait 2 months to show our anger, or can we use these 2 months to galvanize people, charge them up, get them amped up? I just came from a protest, and so did Monique come from it. It might have been nearly 1,000 people out there who wanted to actually, or maybe half a thousand, it was a lot of people, just tell you that wanted to do change. And anybody who's running for local office knows thousands of people, 1,000 to 2,000 people can change an entire election in your home. So before we talk about Trump and all the things that's going nationally, we could change stuff at home by using this. So a lot of times with these protests, they're not about just George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery or about Breonna Taylor. They're about the culmination of all the Black lives that matter that were abused, and then every hometown that knows that this happens in their hometown also. So I know that with our protests, we're just literally trying to shed light that George Floyd is not an isolated incident. We have George Floyd's and different Breonna Taylor stories right here in OPD in Orange County backyard. And we got work to do. And if we want to make change to avoid this same cycle, we can't just fix Minneapolis and Orlando still crooked because there will be the next hashtag.
Right.
It works everywhere we need to put in work. And I think this is just the kind of the engine starter. We're priming the engine so that the different devices like voting and legislation and going to meetings can be put back on the highlight. But if you don't get the people, you can't get the change.
I love that you said, Miles, I love everything you said, but I love that you said protests function as a way of galvanizing people and kind of putting that flare up in the sky again bring attention back to the issues and people finding their own individual ways to take part in the movement or use their circle of influence as well.
And I just add this last part too, that it's also awareness, because we talk about voting, but how do I know to vote somebody out if no one brings to my attention all the evil things they're doing?
Right.
So I think direct action is very important when we're talking about shaping the future, because we need to oust these people and expose them and not be so scared and timid anymore, because this is affecting us.
Well, speaking about exposing, I just want to open up the question for you. What are we not seeing on the news and on social media as far as on the ground? What would you like to share with us that we might be surprised to know as far as your first hand experience with it?
What they're not showing is that it's a lot of different isolated groups that are doing this together, like doing this and then coming out together in the end. You might have 3 or 4 different marches that are organized for the same day by 3 or 4 different groups. And then you have good peaceful protests, but then let's say you have a crowd of 500 and 3 people come up to throw a bottle. That's the narrative the news likes to say, that, oh, they were throwing bottles and doing this. At none of these protests have I seen people start issues or do anything. I've seen a couple people throw bottles. I've seen a couple people do petty stuff, but they've been called out, pushed to the side. It's been so quick. And the response that you see online is like, they tell you, oh, they got tear gas after they did this, or they did this and that, but you're not seeing it actually. Like, I have video footage on my page, the news has reached out, and they don't want to share everything because Orlando is a tourist city. We can't make it seem like it's so out of hand that people don't want to travel here anymore. So a lot of times with the headlines, they're gonna make it seem like the headline with Chief Mina and Sheriff Mina and Chief Malone kneeling and handshaking the 2 young men through the barricade. I was there. At that same time that they was giving the handshake through the barricade, the crowd was yelling, take a knee to the officers, and officers wouldn't. And when they wouldn't, the crowd started booing, and then the officers started moving in formation. So the crowd moved around the corner, and no later than 15, 20 minutes later, when somebody threw a water bottle and left, they started throwing tear gas at everybody.
Wow.
So it's things like that they don't show on the news. But at the same token, people were taking care of each other. They had medics out there, people with milk, people with baking soda and water. People had stands set up. I can tell you, for instance, I know people who were helping people as first aid who were getting pointed out by the police and being intimidated because they were helping others. So we got work to do at home.
So,
And, I just tell people don't watch the news and ride by that.
my question is something that, is what I always question. Can you hear me? I don't know who this person is.
I can hear you.
So one of the things that always strikes me is when good things are happening, you are out here, you're helping the people, especially when it comes to Black people. Why does it seem like those things they want to watch those things, they want to sabotage those things? I saw somewhere on your page that you have a decent job, you're doing good for the community, but they're following you and they're trying to figure out where you are, where you're protesting, where you, and it's not like you're going to these neighborhoods and you're dragging these stores. You're not doing harm, but yet you're being followed because they want to stop your efforts. And those are the things that I feel like as a community, we need to investigate, because we have to understand that it seems to me that they are very strategic, but they're very covert. You don't see it, you don't know it, you don't feel it. But if you are the person who is actually doing the good, you are the one that get the backlash. You're feeling the heat, you're feeling the pressure from the people who are supposed to protect us. Do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, and I can say that I did put that on my page because I wanted people to know, only because it's better to know, like, it's not a joke when people say police really do care about this stuff and follow you. Police have shown up to my house in undercover clothes, telling me that I had death threats on me by police before when I did protest in front of OPD 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They told me that some police members were mad and upset, so they were sent out to detail and follow me just for my safety. Then I showed up to some events that I didn't post about or do nothing, phone numbers that no one had, and I got calls like, hey, Miles, are you on Colonial and Paramore right now? I think I see you. I've had things where police have just showed up in undercover clothes at my events and just posted up.
Yeah.
My first event I did as a forum, We had like 9 to 10 cop cars outside, and there was undercover cops inside of it. And to me, you know, I'm not out here radicalizing people and telling them to go shoot cops and stuff like that. I know that. But to them, what it is that they don't know my agenda. A lot of our leaders, they know their agenda. They know that they are getting paid by them. They know that they have some NDA clause on them or some kind of way that they can kind of take the legs from under them if they get too carried away. I've never worked for the government, never signed any NDAs. I've never done anything of that nature. So it's just fear. And I will say that it could intimidate and could put fear in my heart. But at the same token, it lets me know that I'm doing something right and that, you know, it's just something that I'm willing to do. I want to suggest to everybody because it does mess with us. And other people in the city that I can tell you right now, they get followed.
Yeah.
They have a list, they told me about a list of people who are VIPs on it. And it could be either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on what you're on there for. So it's life, man. And I just think that we need to understand that it's real. Like when we talk about people organizing stuff and planning stuff, I've been in meetings behind closed doors and seeing these plans be rolled out 4 or 5 months later and presented to the people like they're the ones who came up with it. So it's real, but we just got to be better. We got to be smarter. It ain't going to stop if I stop. It ain't going to stop if the next person stops. So we just got to move smarter. That's all.
And that is the exact point, and that is the reason why so often we don't have leadership. You know, even at protests, you know, you see that there's no one person leading it, and tactics like that will keep us from doing anything. And that's the whole point, exactly what you said, that you can't have that fear in your heart if you do want to create that change. And it kind of goes into the next thing that I want to ask you, Pernell. And again, our panelists, I know you guys are on mute, but if you want to tag in at any point, please do. I don't want to stop the dialogue from flowing naturally. But, you know, it's bad enough that we're in the middle, we almost forget we're in the middle of a global pandemic. Some of us are dealing with job loss or not having security in their current job, not knowing if they are already fired. Some of us have lost a loved one. The impact is very diverse. But as a part of the Black community, we also have to deal with the shared trauma and experience of unfortunately seeing ourselves or people that look like us being murdered on video over and over again through our devices. So with your background in mental health, at social work, and even your current platforms, I just want to know if you had any advice or even your own personal experiences as far as coping with all of this just nonstop information.
You know, first, before I go there, you know, I want to touch on what Miles said, the importance of protesting. You know, I was just, you know, give you kudos there, man, because as a mental health professional, one of the things that I have to get out and do in the community is spread awareness. And I feel, you know, so it's important to spread that awareness to let people know what these signs and symptoms are. So when I see protest to me is spreading that awareness about the signs and symptoms that we have going on within our communities. So, you know, I can applaud that for why the protests are very necessary. I've seen a few comments that it's been going on since the 60s. However, since it's been going on since the 60s, we still need to continue to spread that awareness. After we have people call to action. How do we fix these symptoms? So I appreciate what you guys are doing, Miles, when it comes to the protests and things of that nature. But to answer your question, currently with everything that we have going on, you know, with the pandemic, with the economic fallout, with everything that we see as a Black community, just the George Floyd video itself, if you watch that video, that itself is what we can call secondary traumatic stress.
Correct.
You know, that is a form of PTSD, you know, because although you may not have physically been there, you may not have known him, but you see this. You see this. It sends symptoms through your body. It's a painful thing to do, painful things to realize. So when we see these things, this automatically can start to create stress in some of us. It creates this anxiety, this fear, you know, hopelessness. All these things that can walk towards being depressed, having generalized anxiety. So we have to continue to understand, like, you know what, we're experiencing this as a community, you know, but we have to first practice how to step back. That's one of the biggest things I always want to tell people, how to step back. knowing when you need to really just step back and not allow yourself to digest those images, knowing how to practice what we call mindfulness and regrounding yourself. You know, that's the simplest thing I could tell individuals to do. Day in and day out, we see traumatic images in our community. And oftentimes those in other communities don't understand why this is so harmful to us, why we're so enraged and so upset. But the things that's created inside of us, it is something that, as a human being, if you even watch a movie of something sad happen in the movie, you're still going to feel as a human being. So I often talk with my clients about grounding. You know, so grounding is using your 5 senses. So you utilize that to help you get right back in the present moment. Because if you don't, you either be too far in the front, thinking about everything that can go wrong, which creates anxiety, or you can be too far out in the back, thinking about everything that has went wrong, which can create depression. Mm. So the biggest thing that we can do is be very present in the moment, reground ourselves, and I'll be more than happy to email you guys some grounding techniques later on, and you can share with the audience some things that they can do at home and with their loved ones. But we have to do these things to ensure that we're able to be present in mind at this very moment to not only protest, but to go move forward in the fight, what we call to actions after this protest is taking place.
Correct.
I have a question for you, Pernell.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you know,
thank you, Monique. I just want to say bye to Monique. She's saying that she
Monique.
needs to leave us. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time, hopefully.
Oh, Monique, before you leave, if you're not gone already, can you post in the notes that any way that we can support you financially or help people donate to your cause to help to catapult you? Please put that into the notes so that we can start moving forward. If she's not in here, Will, can you just text her that? Thanks. So a lot of us are professionals and we have relationships with people of different races who, you know, we are friends with and that we care about. And what I find on my social media a lot is, one, people are apologizing for their pain, where before they post, they're saying things like, I don't usually post, or I don't usually get political, or I don't want to. It's almost like we in our pain, we're still trying to make white people comfortable about feeling comfortable about us protesting. And then we get into the comment section, and I would say to everyone, don't go into the comment section. Sometimes I even do it because you it's a lot. So
I can understand.
It's a lot but we have to get to a point where, and please correct me as the professional here, where you have to stop caring about what they think and what they feel. Your pain is valid. Your anger is valid. You know, not that you want to curse everybody out, but why are we so boxed into this space of, damn, you know, I literally watched a video one day, and I'll give you the floor, of a woman who, she's married to a white guy, and she has a platform of, you know, mixed races. And the woman, Black woman, she was in tears for the girl was bawling for her entire video in pain. But she was still like, just bear with me, guys, because if you don't understand, maybe she was still pleading with her audience to allow her to cry. Pernell, like, to me, that's insane.
When it comes to that, man, you know, you have to create room for yourself to heal. One thing when it comes to it, everyone does not have the capability or don't have the realization of knowing how to practice empathy and allowing space for an individual to heal. So we have to give ourselves that permission. I think for a long time within the Black community, we have not allowed ourselves to heal. We always want to attempt to make those around us feel comfortable. And that sometimes we can do that within our own families and our own professional lives. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to your personal healing, your own personal social, emotional, psychological well-being, you have to create that space. You have to be able to set those boundaries. And I know it's such a cliche word, but it is something that's very necessary to set those boundaries. Like, you know what, I really can't engage in this with you. I'm not trying to dismiss you, but I can't engage. I'm just not in that space. You should not. Yes, ma'am.
What tools, like right here, right now, you have an audience and this is going to be played. So people are going to, right now, what tools would you give this audience to say, don't engage? Or, I mean, because we are literally zoomed into our screens. And
but when it comes to social media, I'm so sorry, continue your question.
Go ahead, no, please.
When it comes to social media, cut it off. Just that simple. Step back. Go to a page that doesn't engage in that conversation. And I know sometimes it's difficult because you want to put up, but you don't have to engage in that.
Right.
Like for myself, I'm a United States Marine, and I have and I was in the infantry. And in the infantry, there are not a lot of black folks in there. So a lot of my friends on my social media are a lot of the white guys that I served with. And I'm seeing some of their comments, so some of the things that they're saying. And sometimes I want to engage, but like, I don't have to.
Yeah.
I don't have to give them this education about what they're saying and why they're incorrect or why they're blowing this whole thing out of perspective. I don't have to do that. So give yourself permission to say no and stop there. Secondly, utilize your voice. Like I said, your boundary. You can say, I cannot engage. Our voices are very powerful. Mm-hmm. When it comes to protecting our social, emotional, psychological health, we have to be very stern about that. Have to be very stern. It is unfair to you. It's unfair to your close loved ones and those who depend on you for you to continue to try to take on this additional stress of trying to educate and placate to the world. That's no. So give yourself that permission to start with the social media and to get a voice that I do not have the space for you at this very moment.
Okay. I just want to thank you, Pernell, and I appreciate that. I just want to throw in a question, and I think any of you on the panel that want to answer the question in the group, Candace asked, when it comes to the injustices that are happening, how do we change the laws to eliminate the police brutality? How do we require the police department to take cultural diversity tests or classes, etc., and hold them accountable in some form of punishment? I know we did talk about it, but I want to hand that over to the panel. Will, we haven't heard from you. If anybody wants to chime in on that, please do so.
I'll go to Ed. I do have some insight on that too.
Okay. Funny thing, this question came about. I don't know if you guys on Facebook. I actually posted a couple. I guess you could say a list that I compiled from research and from others that are either in the police force. So how we change that is on state, local, and the state attorney that was just speaking. They're the ones who change the laws locally. A lot of times we think the president, but it's all about your state and local leaders. Now, how do you change this? All of the police policies and guidelines are on their websites. You can go find them. And I can look later and send a link to the group. Mm-hmm. Review it. But of course, every website is different, but you can see their guidelines and policies. Now, something that I'm doing, actually Sunday, we're doing this. I'm developing a group, and I sent this to you. So we're developing a list of demands, right? And we're developing, this is for the entire group, because we're actually going to not only talk to the police themselves in person, give this list of demands to the police, and then we want a follow-up meeting to make sure they either have something in place to change this or something in place that says, hey, we can work on it at a later time, because we all know they can't change everything immediately, but they can work on a lot of things, right? But one of the big things is I work for a language company, and I actually sold cultural training to a police department. One thing I'm gonna tell you that we need, and that's why I'm glad Pernell's on it, and I actually talked to Pernell about this, we need to get our therapists to give them cultural training. Because when I sold this cultural training, it was from a white company, and the white company went into that police department and taught this cultural training. So what's happening now, you're getting a viewpoint from a company that doesn't even understand us, right? So how could they culturally train someone when they're not from where we're from? So you get a lot of that, because you got to understand, these police departments, they just want certificates to say, I went through this training, right? And that is a check mark, right? What we have to do is hold them accountable and say, hey, listen, you need to use an African-American company. The therapist needs to be an African-American, right? Those are some things we can do. But I did a step that I said, as citizens, we need to hold them to either quarterly meetings where we review those guidelines and make sure they're updated and, you know, they're doing what they say they're doing. Because most of the time, just like the military, Pernell knows, we go through training sometime, but we just don't go through the training to actually learn. We're saying, I know I need to do this. Let's check this off. So that if we're caught in a situation that we culturally violated someone, we now can say, oh, we had that training, or, you know, they had the training when they really didn't take it to heart, right? So as citizens, we have to get more involved. And that comes with the voting. That comes from saying leadership. You need guidelines in place. And it also comes to, we need to have checkups, quarterly, monthly, however we have to do it. Another thing I think we have to do as well is have an outside organization police the police. And if we don't have that, you know how any company, all companies, if they do an audit, you want yourself to look good, right? But if you have an outside company doing these audits, now you can't hide from what you're not doing. So I think that is some ways that we can change. Sunday, I'm going to have that list of demands downtown at the courthouse, and I'm trying to invite the chief, either who's running and current. We want to get those lists of demands to the police, but we also want to schedule another protest to meet them to say, what have you done to these steps that we either demanded, or what can you change now? Because if we don't hold them accountable, they're never going to change. They're going to wait till this blows away, and then we're going to forget, and everyone's going to be back to their life.
Yes.
And that's what we can't let happen.
Yes. Will, I just want to commend you for everything you've been doing, everything you just said. We have people in the chat box saying that this is good information, and it truly is. And that was the purpose behind this gathering of minds, because we want to be aware of everything that is going on in our community. So often we say no one's doing anything. We keep saying the same things, and I keep trying to push the message that yes, it is being done. You just won't see it happening in mainstream media. You won't always see it posted. You don't follow everybody, okay? And hopefully you start following these beautiful men and women in our community who are doing the work, have been doing the work, and we don't continue to duplicate the same efforts, sweat the same tears, cry the same tears, sweat the same sweat when it's already being done. And we can create partnerships that make us stronger. And so I just want to remind everyone that this is not going to be one of those one and done conversations. Just like Will has proposed with his efforts, we want to continue to have this conversation and keep it going periodically, hosted by BBO and others in the future. More to come on that. And I just want to remind everyone to please follow these people on their pages so we can see how we can join efforts individually as well. But everything you just said kind of leads to where we want to take the conversation and open it up to everyone. I see that Russell Drake joined the call as well. Hi, Russell. The next question was actually to you and Will. Will, I'm going to ask you first just because you kind of touched on it already. But what can we do, and what have you done, even though you said some of it, using your business, using our Black dollars in our community to foster that change? And Will, I saw that you are actually developing a fund to pay for services for Black therapists. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So the good thing of this question, since Corona happened, I don't know, a lot of you guys, I develop major festivals. So as you know, with social gathering, there's no large gatherings. So actually this was a blessing in disguise, because when this happened, I was able to pivot to marketing, and a couple of my first clients are political clients. Me being I guess you can say, a person that's very connected, I understand the importance of the local voting, and I understand how power works locally in the community. And really what I did with my platform, instead of just sitting back, because I'm going to tell you the truth, I made quite a bit of money. And what happens when you get that success, and coming from an inner city, you try to protect your peace and your family. And what happens is you have two worlds pulling on you. I have my white friends and my successful friends that may not understand what's going on. And then of course I still have my Black friends that are like, Will, do something. What happens sometimes, we get paralyzed with too many choices. So we just stand still and try to be quiet. But as a lot of people have seen, being quiet is really, you're really more part of the problem if you're not trying to bring solutions. So what I decided to do is say, listen, you know every political person, you know all these people. you need to start not only doing town halls, panels, but actually helping the citizens understand how they can make change. And how you do that is you give your list of demands to these political individuals. We have enough following. Black business alone has enough following to dictate elections. We give them a list of demands. If they don't meet your demands, you go with a person that does meet your demands and you vote that person out. If you don't put that pressure on them political leaders, they'll continue to do the same thing, and they'll be in office for 20 years, and you'll never see change because they don't have anyone policing their efforts and their change. So I use my platform to, now we're doing protests. We're doing a fund to raise money for therapists, because I really believe as African Americans, we don't go to therapy a lot. And I know Pernell can protest to this, because we have conversations all the time, not only for me, even for Miles, people that are activists, because strong people hurt the most, but we keep it in because we're so strong. But we really need someone to talk to, because when you bottle up all that, the hate, bottle up all those situations and all that energy Miles is taking in, he now needs professional help to get it out so it is not a heavy burden. That is something that I've been talking to him a long time about. This situation is just moving me in a different speed. And money for men to get therapy, but also the females, our wives, our girlfriends, because females now are leaders, unlike back in the day when it was male dominant. Females are leaders now, so females will need it. But the biggest advocate, and I've been talking at several meetings today, is the kids that are viewing this. Due to social media, kids have access to everything we're seeing. We used to have filters of what we can see. So these kids, the trauma that this is doing to younger kids, we need something in place to help them. And we just ask our therapists because we understand, their time is valuable. So why not develop a fund to basically give these kids, mothers and Black fathers, avenue to where they can get this professional help. So those are a lot of things I'm doing. If you follow my page, you can keep up. I have a lot of panels. I have a lot of clients, and I'm just trying to do as much as possible. But one big thing before I go, because I don't want to talk too long, I want this to be about us, and we have to work together. This is not Will's concept. This is not Will's way. This is not Will's protest. This is not Will's ideas. God uses me to get the ideas out there publicly. We're going to help as a group and collaborate, and then Will use his connections to make it happen. But then I will schedule things and make sure it's accountable, because I'm in this race for the long haul. I'm not in it for the short term. I've developed my business where it runs itself, but I'm in this for the long haul. So I'm not trying to get, instant fame or instant credibility. So that's really what I got to say. If anybody want to collaborate, you're free. But that's how I work, because I think that is what we're missing in the Black community. Right. Everyone wants to do their own thing, so they are looked at as the superstar, right? I've done enough of that. I've been doing this business for a long time.
So I was just gonna say, we want you and others of our panel, if you can leave your handles or whichever way we can best follow you and get involved with what you're starting, as well as learn more about that foundation you're creating for therapy, which is so important, like you mentioned, for our children as well, who we cannot leave out of the conversation. So please, in the chat box, include that. I want to toss the question also to Russell and then to the rest of our panel. And then right after that, we will be checking back on our chat to see what questions we have coming in, because we have quite a few building up. And just for everyone on the call, this meeting is scheduled until 8 o'clock if we so need a time. So just a heads up, we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. Russell, Drake, I want to thank you again for joining. We just interviewed Russell, BBO, Black Business Orlando. We interviewed Russell for our BBO Spotlight interviews, which we will be sharing soon. But Mr. Russell Drake, has been working on something very special in the Orlando area, and I would love for you to share that. It goes back to the conversation of how we can utilize and stretch our Black dollars and keep them circulated in the Black community as a part of the many branches behind the movement. So, Russell.
First, good afternoon, good evening to the 50+ persons who are on this Zoom chat. To the leadership of Black Business Orlando, thank you for all you continue to do and fostering an incubator and fostering a cyberspace where people can find Black businesses and also reach out and find resources and outlets. And I'm grateful to you for giving me the opportunity. Pardon my tardiness, I got off on another call, and you know, me and Miles was just downtown getting handcuffed. You know how it is, standing our ground. But
Well,
nonetheless,
you guys
and I'm
are here.
joking around there. We wasn't getting handcuffs. We
I'm
was just,
glad you guys are here.
yeah. But I've been on this journey for the last 4 months, now going into the 5th month of visiting and highlighting Black businesses per my social media page. I think even several people on this call have had the privilege of going to their businesses and highlighting them. And I essentially started doing it during Black History Month. I don't want to take too much away from the interview because I talked about this in the interview I did with y'all. But just briefly, during Black History Month, I challenged myself to support a Black business every day of the month, all 29 days. And then getting closer to 29, I realized I found I had too many businesses to stop at 29. So I said, let me go to 50 days. And then getting closer to 50, I said, well, I may as well finish out the month of March and go to 60. And then as I got to 60, it was like, man, I still had more businesses. And there were some professions I hadn't all the way tapped. So then it was like, well, let's go to 100. And going to 100 was, it was tough. But then, and I don't know, it's always light at the end of the tunnel. And it was like going to 100, again, I had too many more. And it was like, well, you know, what's better than 100? 2. So I said, let's roll it on to 200. And here I am at day 122 and, you know, and working to get 78 more businesses featured. And what I do is I do a write-up, I take a picture with these owners, and I patronize the business if possible.
What have you learned through your experience getting to know these Black business owners, what their needs are in the community, and even getting to meet some of their families as well, who are usually part of the business?
I've learned that, I mean, every owner has some similarity. You know, every owner knows what it takes to keep that business afloat, and they're not afraid to do what it does. None of our Black owners can sit back and, you know, stay home for 2 weeks and say the business will run. All of them are out there busting their butts every second to make it go around. And if they got a staff, heck, they're making sure the staff gets paid. They're making sure the lights goes on, stay on. They understand the hunger pains of being an owner because they may not bring something home. They want to go out and eat and stuff, but I just gave the money out because I didn't want to lay off these people that work for me because I like them. So they've all been taking it in. Many of them family-owned restaurants. Angels out there in Sanford, Bow-Key was good. They it's interesting. They have a restaurant, and right next to it is their house. Literally on the same property is their house, and the whole family lives in this house. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, they live in it and they all work there. That was like probably the most unique thing I'd ever seen. And you know, and again, it's a tough time because people are low on money, so they're not spending as much. It's also a tough time because many of them want to get loans, and you have these big businesses absorbing the loans that were meant for small businesses. I just heard the county just got cleared for some money that they can distribute, and I hope all the entrepreneurs on here apply for that money from them. And there are limitations, you know, you got to have X amount of employees and things of that sort. And you know, it was a tough time for some of them. The eateries struggled. It seemed like the law firms were doing all right. Again, not everybody has enough money to pay for the legal fees because, you know, when you stop the checks, just 2 paychecks. Most people are 2 paychecks away from being on poverty, you know? And then more of us are only 2 generations away from poverty. So I heard, you know, Willie talking about some good stuff. See, financial literacy is what we really hurt. And I know I'm preaching to the choir and all y'all know this, but financial literacy is where it is. And I see Ali Braswell's tuned in, a man that talked to me 10 years ago about this. But because we're not getting the financial literacy, many people are so unprepared, and even in their business life. So people don't understand that they need to change their business model. Some folks are open only 4 days a week for various reasons. There's some restaurants that don't have seating because they have to pay more. They have to pay more in insurance if they have seating and liability. So a lot of our Black businesses are really set up to go into this type of thing. Like many of them are set up for to-go food. I went to Island Time on the east side of town, the Avalon Park community. That owner told me, hey, through COVID and all, he's been doing better. And I was like, what do you mean, brother? And he was like, I got enough to-go trays. People just getting their food and leaving. I don't have to clean up. I don't have to take out the trash. I don't have to do this. So he said he's as an owner, he's loved it. But again, he's in the kitchen, he's working there, you know, and I think to me what I realized is that everybody's in it in a similar position, but everybody's at different levels of this entrepreneur thing. And there's a necessity for many of these owners to get together and some of them mentor one another. Some of them, you know, somebody be the mentor, somebody be the mentee, and help pull each other up, because the worst thing that happens is seeing some Black businesses get shut down during this period, or seeing some businesses in general. And you know, it's like, it shouldn't happen like that. And I ran into some consultants who even offer services, 3D Strategic Management by Kimberly Rozier, Jean Rozier. She said for any business that felt like they were going under, she helped them for free. And she had several what she called cash out runs to save a business, where she's collecting money to try to help these businesses out. You know, I mean, every dollar can count. And I guess ultimately what I want to do is get people in the mindset of putting your Black dollars towards Black business. And then when you do that, we hit up our Black businesses for everything. It's like we try to take from them. It's like they offer the lowest price at the best quality. You're not going to find any better ribs than Pete's Rib Shack or Boomerangs, and they're selling a big slab of ribs for $30. You go anywhere else in Orlando, that slab is about half the size. You're not getting nothing better than that. And at the same price, mind you. But give people an opportunity. I think that's all we want at the end of the day. I had the chance to go to, Annie D's Market in Sanford. I see Purnell right there. And you know, out there, they got some good stuff going on. It's more of a neighborhood thing in that Midway community of Sanford. But more people go there now because they're like, you know what? I didn't even know it's Black owned. You know, everybody says I want to support Black business. They don't want to, you know, get into it. And that not everybody has a connection to the community. You know, and it's like, I have a connection to some communities, but it's like, hey, I can get along with Black people. So I'm going to go up in your community, and I'm not going to lie. Some of them times I was in Sanford, Purnell, it was, hey man, I looked around and I was like, boy, they could do whatever they wanted. They got me out here. But, you know, I'm like, hey, somebody got to put it on the line to get other people across. Yeah, it's like, I mean, somebody got to put it on the line though. It's like, you know, it's like so many people will say, well, you do it, well, you do it, well, you do it. And it's like, well, hell, you know, why don't I do it? You know, and it's like, I'm going strong to 200. And, you know, if any of y'all got businesses that I need to highlight, please let me know. That's what I'm working towards 200.
Thank you. Thank you for all you've been doing. Patrona, did you have something to say? Because I want to go to the chat box and give one more comment to Russell.
Absolutely. I think that just, you know, standing on this board, I've been on this board since December. And there have been many efforts to get the community together. I don't think there's a lack of people trying to work. I don't think there's a lack of leadership in the community. I don't think there is a lack of resources for us to pull from. Where I find the lack is in community involvement. And why, just to kind of piggyback on the earlier conversation that Miles was talking about, is why protesting is important. Protesting is important because it riles up the emotion in people and it shifts the focus back to where we need to be. And if we need to protest every month or protest every week just to keep people focused on what we have to do as a community, then I'm going to tell you that protesting is necessary, because I could have had this, set this up a week ago and the participation would have been lower. But because there are things going on, people are emotionally driven to act and they are emotionally driven to be a part of something. We need that emotion to stay active throughout the year. Cash mobs have been introduced. Even the book club that was introduced. There's so much low participation. And just as anybody else who's trying to organize something in the community, we get our energy from the community. And when the community is dormant, we run out of what are we supposed to do? How can we help you? How can we make things better? How can we energize you? How can we feed you? How can we educate you? We have so many people on this panel alone that are so intelligent, so smart. And guess what? Nobody's paying us. No, and I'm not talking about BBO. So please, I'm not talking about BBO at all. I'm talking about every single person on this panel who is giving their services to say, I want to help. I want to be a part of. I want to do. I want to create. I want to build. You can have. I don't care. When we do those things, show up. If I say I want to feed the community, show up. And I'm a person who, I'm not about the elite. I know the elite, but I'm not about the elite, because at the end of the day, I come from the bottom. So if you feel like you can't do nothing and all you got is your EBT card, guess what? You can donate 10% of what you make on that EBT card to feed the homeless. Like, for real, we can really come together and make a difference in our community, but we have to want to do it. And I also understand that at the end of the day, we don't always know where to go. BBO is a group that there's 19,000 people in that group that's either a business owner, want to grow a business, or want to support a business. So if you need to find a charity here, a nonprofit here, in search of, and donate your time, donate your talent, donate your money, because that's what's going to take for us to catapult this movement to the next space. When we talk about what can we do, how can we build, when we say we're organizing, organize. And not only organize, my visions, and I'm not the only one with these visions, because people come to me and I'm like, I thought of that too. Town halls, when you say, you know what, we're going to have a group of people that's going to take care of the political aspect. You go out and find out what's going on in the community. And we don't have 10,000 Black communities here in Orlando. I can tell you about the 5 or 6. Guess what? We need to know what's going on in the education. Who's running for this office? Who's running? But I can't do it alone. Carrie can't do it alone. Pernell can't do it alone. Miles can't do it alone. We need the people to say, you know what? I got time on Sunday. Let me make sure. And you report that information back, and we come out, and if we can come out in thousands for any type of event, we can come out in the thousands to go to vote. And what we don't understand and what we don't realize is that most people don't vote. They talk about how we don't vote, but most people don't vote. Most people sit their behinds home and watch TV. So if we can change that narrative to be the people that vote and vote the people that we need in, we gain power. But if we chill, if we feel like, and I know I'm going off on a tangent, and
they're loving you.
But if we feel like it doesn't matter, if we feel like voting doesn't count, if we feel like protesting does nothing, if we feel like nobody does nothing, if we feel like Black people don't own stuff, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna sit down. And I take the time now to change that narrative. Oh, I bet you we have no Black-owned gun stores in Orlando. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Don't do that. Yes, we do. We don't have no Black-owned banks. Yes, we do. We don't have a Black-owned bookstores. Yes, we do. And to the point where it's don't diminish us to nothing. Find out where these people are and support them. And not everybody needs your money. I need you to share. So I say all of that to say, there's about 60 people on this panel. On this call, right? And if there's a call to action to join a group, we need activists. We need people, we need men. Where are you guys? Stand up. We need the men to say, you know what? We're going to stand together to protect, because we got people like Miles going out there busting his behind to get this done. We need to be able to, if they watching us, we watching them. They watching us, we're watching them. Guess what? I see you too, because we have to protect him so he can go out and continue to do the work that he does. We have to go out and business owners or anybody that's aspiring to have businesses, because I come from New York. I come from here and I come from New York. I have a split background in both places, and I see how Jews operate. And my salon was in a Jewish neighborhood. Not one of them patronized me, not one. And that's okay. I do everybody say it. I knew they wasn't. right? But the pizza place right next to me was a Jewish pizza place. They huddled there every single day, and like they damn near ran that neighborhood out of that pizza place. And I say all that to say, we have a directory. We have a place where we can say, yo, this is where we're going. They never looked at me with any type of prejudice. They saw me every day. Hey, how are you? Oh, you want to come inside? No? Okay, you don't have to come inside school. I understand where they are. That's what we need to do for our own. But we have to build it as well. We have to create it as well. They build things for their children to do. We have neighborhoods, especially because we're such a touristy neighborhood, we're such a touristy place. Everything is built for adults. There's not a lot of things for children. There's not a lot of things for kids. Focus your efforts there, because if the kids got things to do, they're not on the street. So I'm gonna end my tangent there, because this is not about me, but I know that there are people right now just feeling like, what can we do? How can we be? We are out here. We are out here. Connect and let's get to work.
I keep telling you, stop apologizing, because everything you're saying is completely on point. And even in the chat box, people are saying, you know, you're telling the truth. You're speaking a truth that we all say in personal conversations to our family, to our friends, but too often we aren't saying it in public spaces like this. And I think that's the purpose behind these discussions, is to share that information, communicate that information, and don't keep it within yourself or your little bubble. And follow our pages in order to share this information and not just leave it here in this conversation. And hopefully while people are watching this video later on, they can repost. Please support us by reposting this conversation and keep it going so it doesn't just die here. I want to go to the chat box. Either Jazz or Patrona, do you want to?
I'm going to let Jazz, I know she was monitoring the questions, and I know Naisha said she wants to have something to say, so I want to hand
Purnell too. He's like,
oh, go ahead, Purnell, I'm sorry.
No. I know, I think Zora in the chat box says, you know, anger is a feeling and it's real.
yes.
So I don't want Zora to think that anything that I was saying, first and foremost, I'm an advocate for anger. What I mean by that, you hear anger management, but you never hear happy management. You know, anger is a real feeling. And anything, like, just like I tell my clients, if you have that anger, have that rage, I'm never going to tell you to suppress it. I'm going to tell you to try to utilize it in something that's going to be constructive, that's going to be able to move you forward. And it's how we display that anger that we have inside of us. So it is definitely a real feeling and emotion that we have to recognize. And I think it's more detrimental when someone tell you, hey, to suppress that anger, don't express that anger. No, it's okay to, it's just how we go about expressing it and utilizing it. So I don't mean that at all.
Hey,
right,
Cheyenne.
because it's going to come out someplace, somewhere, no matter what.
Hey, Cheyenne, I wanted to let Purnell, I thought I was saying that in a positive way, because I don't think a lot of us know that anger is an emotion.
Yes.
So
yes.
I just made 63 days ago, and I'm loving this. All my babies up under me. I'm in Dallas, Texas. So I don't know who knows Nina. Nina is my goddaughter. So however you guys can keep me connected, I'm with it. Today I just did a talk on Micah in the Bible, because Micah talks about the social injustice that's being done. And to have been, in between 1960 and 67, to see the killings and to be a kid, but now to be 60 years old, to see this, to have seen a Black president, and now the regression of back to this, what you guys are doing, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. You all are loved, appreciated, celebrated, valued. Cheyenne, I need to give you your own talk show. What's my other baby's name with the blonde hair? I love it. Y'all keep doing what you're doing. But Purnell, I wanted to make sure, because I'll go back and look at that. But I just wanted to say that, even on, if you go look out there, there's a anger wheel to look at to see all the different stages of what happens. But the education of where you guys are, where we are, is what we have to pray for together. We don't hit nobody over the head with the spiritual Bible, but the synergy of what we need to do to come together, because this keeps evolving. So are we the generation that'll make this cease and no more? you know, but I love it. So I just wanted to make sure, because from now I had already fallen in love with you and Will, okay? Diane, y'all, I appreciate y'all. Nina, whoever knows Nina, thank you for letting me come
Yes,
on.
ma'am.
I appreciate y'all.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for being here.
Awesome. We did have a question from Jonas for the panels. Either one of you can chime in on it.
Can I say something really quickly before I have to hop off? I have a, I do apologize. I did want to say something. Right.
It's a family discussion, so you could jump in.
Okay.
If you have to jump in.
No, I got to jump off in a minute. I'm doing a guided meditation. I need it right now. But what I wanted to say, and to piggyback off of what you said earlier in reference to, you know, how do we catapult each business, right? And so what I wrote in the chat is trust. And what I mean by that is that we, as Black individuals and Black business owners, we have to learn how to trust our fellow Black business owners. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to be able to say, okay, that they possess the proper knowledge, just as the white counterpart or whatever the case.
Right now, Naisha, you getting into something different now.
Trust is the key. You know what I'm saying? We have to be, we trust our Black hairstylists, we trust, but do we trust our Black nail techs? Like, you know what I mean? We can't pick and choose.
You right.
We gotta completely trust one another. That's the only way for us to be successful.
I agree. Thanks for that.
Can I piggyback off of that?
Okay, Ebony. Hey, girl.
Yes. Hey, I know I've been very silent, which is not
Dr. Ebony Rainey.
What's up, Doc?
Hey, everyone. Yes, I want to piggyback off on her when she said trust our business owners, but we as business owners first have to take accountability of how we run our business and understand that it is a business, because we get that pre-notion or that stereotype that oh, I'm not working with Black businesses anymore because they had that 1 or 2 experiences. But those 1 and 2 experiences mean a lot. So you as a business owner, you have to make sure your business is strategically planned and effective. So when a Black person or anyone come in your establishment or take advantage of your services and products, that they're getting the best that they can get regardless of your skin color, because that's what sets us aside. Of course, they say not your skin color, but it is. It's your skin color and then what comes along with that. And okay, I can go deeper and deeper, but you get the synopsis of it. Start with yourself as a business owner, get your paperwork in order, and go from there. And then, you know, people will start comfortable because it's the truth. It's the reality that we're faced with. And then that comes on great Black business owners that are doing good things, that have strategic plans in place and paperwork and ready to get, you know, bring in the next client or customer. But if we have that stereotype, what is that doing to us? How is that hurting us? Ask yourself that and then fix it if it's not in place already. So that's my 2 cents and I'm done.
All right. I got a 3 cents. So here's my challenge. Here's my challenge to all business owners, all Black business owners. Because while I agree we have to step our game up, I also agree that we have to mentor those who are going into business and not doing it properly. Yes. And I will also challenge the people who are consumers of these Black businesses. We have to get over the pettiness of I didn't like this and I didn't like that. When you talk about Black ownership, understand that most of the time, and I know Russell can attest to this, we are the stylist, we are the marketer, we are the janitor, we're wearing 10 hats. So if I cannot answer your call and of course we need to have systems in place, because I'm a big person that deals with systems, but a lot of times we starting from the bottom and we're going to the top. So if we're starting from the bottom, we have to exercise patience. We have to exercise love. We have to exercise trust. Like, these things have to be given before we talk about excellent customer service. Because guess what? You might know how to bake the crap out of some pies, but you don't know how to treat me right because ain't nobody ever treat you right. You're just speaking the language of your family and friends. Where I'm just like, well, wait a minute. Why you got an attitude? My family is Jamaican. Y'all know. Y'all can go to any Jamaican restaurant. Don't ask for no gravy. Don't ask for no extra plans. We looking at you crazy, right? But our culture knows at the end of the day, I can only get Jamaican food from Jamaicans. I cannot go to the Chinese food and beg them for me a snapper. They can't do it. So guess what? I got to patronize my people. And that's where we have to get to the point where you know what? She just mad. I'm still going to get these nails done. I'm gonna still get what I need.
You know what, Trona? We accept that attitude from other groups, don't we? And we still go to them.
Yes, we do.
So,
yes, we do.
I say that, and I know. I'm sorry, Jazz. I know you have the question.
We're gonna pull it back.
And we want to hear y'all. We want to hear the people, but I just want to, because I feel like Ebony and even Aisha, I feel like we're talking to a different group. And those of us who know better needs to do better. But those of us that know better and do better still have to understand that there are people coming into this entrepreneurship completely unprepared and going and running out on faith. And they are bound to fall on their face if we don't support them. Go ahead, Ebony. I see you.
Yes, because, I'm building up in my throat here.
I see you, boo.
I am an advocate
yes.
for knowledge. I feel like I was able to take in that knowledge and I'm going to pour it out. Yeah. I have a mentorship program, so I'm all about it. And I seen a question come through that said, well, how do we get to that? How do we know? Come on, we have to open up our mouths. We have to hold ourselves accountable.
Absolutely.
Open up our, if I don't know how to do something, open up your mouth. Don't let the next Joe Schmo stray you away from getting to your goal and your purpose into your business. You better open up your mouth. You better post something on Black Business of Orlando. Message us. If you see me post a business about something about business plans, if you got a question, open your mouth, because you ain't gonna get that if you don't open your mouth. So that's how we do it. Open your mouth, and that's because if we don't know, if I'm mentoring a certain group of people, if I don't know the other people that need help, how will I be able to help you?
Exactly.
I'm posting videos. I'm providing my knowledge. But if you're not taking advantage of it by asking additional questions or pulling to the side because I didn't touch on something that you need, then how am I supposed to know? So open your mouth.
I think it goes. I'm gonna let you speak, Pernell. I'm gonna let you speak. I'm gonna let you speak. Right?
I'm done.
Right. Hold on. I think it definitely goes back to what Naisha was talking about with trust. And at the end of the day, I gotta trust that because you are beautiful, because your makeup is always done, because your lashes is on point and your nails is on point, that you're not gonna be a bitch to me. I gotta trust that. And oftentimes, I know you're not. I'm not saying you are. You're a sweet girl. Love you. But we have to open up our hearts to say, you know what? She still is approachable. Not me. I don't mind approaching everyone. But maybe there is some fear there. And we have to learn to trust each other. Pernell, I'm going to let you speak because you look like you
We're going to go to Pernell. And I'm being annoying because I'm supposed to be the facilitator. It's my job to just kind of keep us on track. So I'm going to do my job.
All right.
But I'm going to go to Pernell, and then Ramsey Razard, he's also our panelist. He joined us. I have a question for him. And then Jazz, I swear to God, we're going to that chat box because I want to get everyone's voice heard. Pernell.
Watch me mute this. I'm going to mute it right now. Look at this.
You're the best.
This has been a great conversation. I appreciate you all with the candid conversation. This is very much needed. Definitely with some of the solutions that you guys are providing. Hopefully we can start to really enact some of these solutions right away. But I'm getting ready to cut out of here. One of the biggest things that I wanted to really take away, what you guys take away from me is that first and foremost, secondary traumatic stress is very real. So even throughout these times, be careful about what you're taking in. Because when it comes to vicarious stress or vicarious trauma or secondary traumatic stress used interchangeably, oftentimes we don't know that it's happening to us. And we just keep watching these images and these things that we keep seeing, and it's impacting us more and more and more. So recognize when you need to step back. Give yourself that permission. Another thing I want you guys to take away is knowing that you create the healing space for yourself. That's the biggest thing. Your healing space is very important. Other people may not understand it or respect it, but you have to make sure that that respect is getting to you as you heal throughout this process. So those are the biggest things I want you guys to take away from what I had to say this evening. As I stated, I'm very big on acronyms. So one acronym that I use is ACT, which is ACT, the word act now. A is awareness, C is call to action, and the T is tools for self-care. These are very important for us to continue to utilize throughout this whole process of everything that our community is experiencing. And with that being said, thank you again. Once again, myself and Monique, you got something? Sorry.
Yes, Pernell, please talk about your position. What are you running for? What does that do? Why do we need to vote for you? Please let the people know how to support you.
Gotcha. So currently right now, as was stated earlier, I am running for Seminole County Commissioner here in Seminole County, which is the neighborhood county next to Orange County. That position there is one of the highest levels of elected officials that will allow us to have fiscal responsibility and legislative power to ensure that our community is not being missed when different policies are being created and when funds are being released. So it's very important that even if you guys are not, if you don't live in Seminole County, if you want to support, go to pushwithbush.org. Your donation will help us go a long way to continue to try to succeed in this seat. The same thing we're going to visit Monique and her support. She's trying to do in her seat. But ultimately, what I'm trying to do, what I call is the truth platform, TRUTH, transparency of the Board of County Commissioner, rural quality of life, uniform protection, tax responsibility, and housing affordability. These things are very important to me when it comes to ensure that we uplift our community and that the community have representation that is very real. One history fact that I want you all to know, here in Seminole County at the county level commission level, there has never been a person of color. So there has never been true diversity there. So, when it comes to, I say, I'm not looking for equality, I'm looking for equity. It's time that our community gets what we have invested back. So I'm looking, so a vote for Pernell Bush is a vote for equity to make sure that we have a voice that is fair and impartial that's going to represent our community. So
thank you.
Platform that puts
a mouthful right there.
Thank you so much, Pernell.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me on.
No problem.
Pernell, can you please goes back to the BBO event page for this meeting, and please leave your information there as well so people can follow you and follow up with what you're doing.
Positive. I can definitely do that.
Make it nice and easy for us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good one.
Go to you next time. Thank you. Just to circle back very quickly to some of the things that was said, we have, this is not a commercial by the way, but we do have so many experts within the BBO community. For those of you who follow us already know that, but I didn't want to miss a key thing that we are going to be starting a video series posting a lot of the expertise and information that the members hold. It really just goes back to what Dr. Rainey was saying as far as there being experts in our community. And I'm saying this because I see many of you in the chat box asking, how can we learn more about this information? How do we continue to communicate as we're stating here? So that is one direct way. Facebook is like having someone's phone number now. So we all have one-on-one contact with each other. If you need this expertise, we will be sharing that. I know Dr. Rainey, she has a business consulting. She has a PhD in business. I do nonprofit consulting, and we have a plethora of different types of expertise. And also Russell Drake has been interviewing literally 100+ businesses in Orlando that are Black owned that I bet most of us did not know existed. So we want to use his information not to go to waste, but as a directory for us, which we will be utilizing in the future as well. More to come on that. But to go to the chat box and then Ramsey, because I feel like it's building in your throat as well. And this really is speaking to a lot of the things you do for us. So Jazz, can you just let us know what the chat box is saying?
One of the other questions that we had was from Jonas, is there a third-party review board that reviews officers on a yearly basis? I guess they have that set up in Atlanta, and they wanted to know if that was something that we had here in Orlando. So if anybody on the panel has any information or can speak to that.
I'm going to check on that information. I'm actually talking to a couple local police officers to get this information. And what I probably can do is I get each department in Orange, Seminole, and Osceola, so we have that information. But I'll follow up on it because it's just so much that we can take in. But that is something that I had on my list for us to demand, that needs to be a third-party organization doing those reviews.
If I could chime in there. So there are different citizen review boards, but they have no power. They have no true power. They're to me, they're just there in a ceremonial sense. Like they could review something, they could recommend something, but they can't enforce anything. So they have them at with Orange County Sheriff's Office and Orlando Police Department. That's, it's like it sounds good. And I think from what Will was saying earlier, we want to get out of what just sounds good. And Miles will tell you, we want to get to what's real. So they have these in existence, but they're not able to do anything. They're frustrated. They've told us several times they want to do different things and nobody cares. I mean, heck, sometimes they don't even see the stuff until it's too late to even act on it at all.
Yeah, and I wanted to chime in on what's going on right now too, with when it comes to police accountability and what needs to be done. Right now when it comes to an actual chief or sheriff, they don't have as much power as a person would think because of how it works with Tallahassee and the police union and the police bill of rights that they have. So, people like TJ Legacy and others like Lawana and even me and Russell have been part of these efforts to kind of oust these officers that get caught doing some racially charged or some very bad things. And let's say the sheriff or the chief suspends him or gives him 2 days off, some very minor punishment, then that officer cannot get punished twice. And we always have this situation where off rip, we get so mad, we're like, hey, Chief Mina, do something. So Chief Mina's like, okay, I'm mad, I'm gonna suspend him. And then we're like, the Citizen Review Board recommends to fire the person. Well, now Chief Mina's hands are legally tied because he can't do double punishment for the same offense. So I think when we're talking about police accountability, there are certain things that we can give them, but the policy, and that's what Will is going to come real essential, because the language has to be written that it's not punishment, it's help. One of my suggestions I had was when a police officer is involved in an officer-involved shooting or any kind of great bodily harm to a person while they're on the job, that police officer should get a mental health break. They should get at least some time off active duty and on desk duty, and having some days in the week that they may work 30 hours and have 10 hours that is 5 hours of therapy and 5 hours of R&R. And for the next year or so, or the next 6 months, depending on what the issue was that happened, they need a mental health break.
So Miles, I'm sorry, Miles.
Yeah, you good, brother.
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah.
Peace, family, to everybody that I don't know. But my brother is an Orange County sheriff, and I tell you guys, I had a very intense conversation with him last night in regards to suggested police reform. And I was asking different questions. And one of the questions I was asking was, are there mandatory psych evaluations? Kind of what Miles was speaking on. And I said, well, bro, bro, I know how we grew up. And I know within the first 3 to 6 months you've been on the force, you've seen more than we ever saw in our lives. And what you're telling me is that, yeah, there are options, but there's nothing mandatory to do. And to speak on what Miles was saying, I asked him about the whole, well, if a cop, yeah, they'll get a debriefing, they'll get a mental check, but as Miles stated, they're right back out there. So what my gripe in our debate last night was, why do you feel that these things should not be mandatory, whether it's quarterly? And it's just a mental wellness check. If you look at a cop's jacket, and within the last 30 days or the last quarter, they've responded to 10 homicides and domestic violence cases and child abandonment cases, I think that person needs a wellness check. But what he told me is all these things are optional. And I said, well, bro, everybody's not like you. Everybody's not resilient like you. And when you tell me that it's based on the individual, I asked him, well, how many individuals are we going to have before we realize it's a problem? So in personally speaking to someone that's my family, that's in the Orange County Sheriff, no, they do not have these things in place. And how he was speaking, it doesn't sound like they are going to have these things.
Yeah, and that's why just to finish up, it just takes us knowing where to go, because we could go to Chief Mina and Sheriff Mina and Chief Ramon right now and ask them for certain things, and they're gonna use that same thing I brought up earlier in the beginning of the call when an elected official says, I would love to do that for you. They're gonna sit with you. They're gonna let you have your 30. I'd have had probably literally over 10 meetings with them in the past couple of years, and every time they will say, I love what you're doing. I love what you're saying. That's a great idea. But this is why I can't do that, but this is what I can do. And it's always crumbs. So what's very important is when we're trying to get stuff changed, we need to go to the actual changers. And if we ask for certain reform, I had a whole effort that we did a whole boycott, a whole protest, whole petition signing, and sent it to the wrong entity. And we sent it to the wrong place to get change done and lost all that momentum. And I think that's what happens a lot with our movements. We have very good, passionate moves, but we're not taking it to the right place that can actually make the right change.
And that's what I wanted to talk to you about, Miles.
And I would just add to that, you know, it's about a lot of resilience to not give up that first time too, when things don't work out the way you think it's going to work out. For the folks in the chat box, I just want to suggest that if your questions aren't being answered or if we've lost it at some points, I see there's a lot of chat comments. Let's try to keep the conversation going by reposting your comment on the event page. And maybe we can also have some follow-up conversations, continue conversations as well there. Because I mean, my big thing is just follow up and follow through. I really don't want all the valuable information that we're sharing here today to stay here or die here. I'm going to move the conversation on to Ramsey and ask you the question, from your vantage point, what can each of us do to grow our community as well as protect ourselves from those who do not have our best interests in mind? And how do you keep the people in your life encouraged through all this? And that's for our panel as well.
What's up, Cheyenne? What's up, Black Business Orlando? Thank you so much for having me on board. I love y'all conversation. I was like, oh, I'm intense. Y'all got my stomach turning. I'm like, OMG. But this conversation, this question that is asked me, I think the first thing we need to do, for me, I'm a big relationship person. I think relationship really exposes the heart of people. And then you know how to really manage people. I always say the greatest thing is, if you want to manage your success, then you got to learn how to manage people. And when we're building a community, when it comes to like the Black community, we got to really look at the narrative of how are we dealing with ourselves? What are the identities that we are trying to understand within ourselves that we are incarcerated by, that's not allowing us to be better when it comes to doing business to business, from a Black person to another Black person. I've had a lot of bad experiences with Black business, but I did not give up because I don't allow that brand to affect every other brand that I get ready to encounter. And I think one thing in our community is we don't take our brand serious enough. You know, we don't invest into coaching. We don't invest into how to put systems in place, how to really grow our company. Most of us don't have a business plan. What does a 3-year projection look like for a company? Most of us build a company under the identity of I versus what can I offer to my community? So therefore, you already have an identity struggle there. It doesn't really help identify the brand for you to even grow your business or even to collaborate with somebody else. Because when you don't know the identity to who you are, and when you don't know the identity to your business or to your brand, every person that you see have a business, you feel like they're a competition. I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Blue Ocean. And it talks about the difference between the blue ocean and the red ocean. The red ocean is a competition. The blue ocean talks about collaboration. What are the right skills and tools that you need in a business when it comes to community connection that you can use to really grow your business? Because you grow your business by partnership, not just from person to person, but as a partnership. We're growing this. Whatever you have that I don't have, let's find a way to grow together. And our community has been fighting for so long. I always go back to the image of Kunta Kinte, the movie where the white slave master calls the Black slave to come and beat Kunta. And at that moment, there's a perception that changes, that our own kind is beating us for a position of life and death. And even when it comes to business, we deal with that all the time. It's either my money or it's no money at all. You know, and that's what caused a lot of those things. We really need to help each other. First thing is self-care, learning the proper way of establishing a business, learning what the difference between S Corp, LLC, learning what business insurance look like. If someone has insurance, so let's say you're starting your company, you know, who's your mentor? How do you know you're going to get to that place without somebody showing you how to get there and not being afraid of you surpassing your mentor? You know, you got to make sure you put yourself in that place to really help identify who you are, what's your brand, and how can you really collaborate with those in the community to really establish what you believe is a dream for your legacy.
I'm just so happy you said that just now. Because, I'll just say this part that I think Patrona has something to say too. I'll just say this part. I live in the nice, cozy world of nonprofits. I love it. I went through the whole corporate world's experience at the highest level, working for a Fortune 500. But the one thing that keeps me in the low-paying nonprofit world is there's no sense of competition. They understand that we're working towards different but equal goals. And we talked about this with Russell Drake in our BBO Spotlight interview that you'll see, but how there are so many businesses that could be right next door to each other that are Black owned, that aren't utilizing each other as resources, that aren't partnering, that aren't building, that aren't sharing information, that aren't leveraging each other. And that is what other communities have identified hundreds of years ago. Not to say that we haven't, not to say that we have not built communities of high economy amongst ourselves and that they weren't torn down, burned down, and bummed down. Not to say that. But every time we do build those and they are burned down or knocked down, we have to have strategies for A, avoiding that happening, and then B, using information like we're sharing here today to restructure in a way that we are planning for the 100 and 200 year game. And I'm talking way out there, but it's not. And we got to get it through our heads. We're not talking crazy prophecy. We're talking about what we're doing today clearly does affect the 100 and 200 year game. And
she froze. She'll be back, but while she's getting back, I want to talk a little bit about communities and really what I've seen other communities do, right? So we have this grand idea of, you know, we have to build a business plan. We have to get, and I'm not saying any of those things are wrong. You guys are absolutely right in what you're saying. But what I would like to see from us is that we hone into who we are as we are and thrive in that space. Hear me out. I come from a cosmetology background, so that's what I can speak to. And there's certain industries that we are locked out of, particularly nails. Black people are locked out of that industry. Unless there are white companies that are selling supplies, you cannot buy supplies from your Asian counterparts, right? They have locked into their community. Are they legal? Absolutely not. They're not legal. So they have 10 and 12 people into a nail shop, and they work and they bring people from where they're from. That's where they're hiring from. That's where and they bring them into their shop and they work them. And then when it's another person's turn, they take that person and they open up a shop in another one of our neighborhoods, and they build out that design. Now we have a thing called state board, which is that's federal. That's across the United States. Where state board goes in and they make sure that you are a licensed professional and that you do things in a cleanly way, that you have a customer service. You can get your license taken away. You can have your business shut down. For some reason, these businesses are allowed to run as they are, where they are, without trouble, in the most legal way possible. And I'm not saying that's the route that we should go. What I'm saying is they've honed into themselves and they've taken a part. I always say that Black people funded China because they've taken a part of our neighborhoods, and they continue to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. So how can we, with, not to say that people who, you know what you know. When I first started doing entrepreneurship and people started talking about business plans, and it gave me a headache, right? But I was still making money, right? I was still building a business. I was still able to feed people. I was still able to do things that I needed to do without all of that, right? So how can we take those same efforts of the small person who's not doing it right and bring them into a collective to say, you know what? You're doing this. You're doing this. How can we combine that for a bigger goal? Because we cannot compete with white people. We cannot do business the way that they do. We cannot advertise the way that they advertise. We cannot market the way that we cannot set up our business structures with the same formulas that they use and assume that it's going to work for us. We do not operate, our niche market does not require that. Mm-hmm. Our niche market does not require that. If we are for us, by us, we do not operate that way. I don't need you to have a business plan for me to shop with you. I don't even care, right? So, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, Ramsey, at all, but I'm very cautious when we take certain ideals. I have so many business books. And that's how I was able to grow. I have a whole library of business books, right? I can't take that to somebody who just started a small business, because they're gonna be like, I don't.
And Patrona, I think what you're also saying is, someone in the chat box just said cultural identity. It goes to the point that we are not monolithic, and we too often, I don't think you or Ramsey are wrong. There is no right or wrong. We have different ways of doing business, just like every community has different ways of doing everything. And the point is, like we said before, is to remove stereotypes that not only do others put on us, but that we perpetuate amongst ourselves, either consciously or subconsciously. It's happening. So, you know.
I agree. Definitely. Okay.
Will, I'm sorry.
No, I've been burning to do this. What we really have to do, because I've had white clients and I've competed with white clients and I have won. But the first thing we have to do is we take ourselves out of that business. If all of you guys right now go to Central Florida Deals on my Facebook, you would think it's a white person running that company. Nobody on here usually knows that I even own Central Florida Deals because how I run it. If we don't get our faces, like you said, culturally, we're so used to culturally building our company off of our brand, right? And what that does is a big company finally didn't come to me. They didn't even know who I was. They said, "We looking at your page. We love what you're doing." I built that page to 10,000 followers organically. All those people are strangers because I ran ads and I built my brand to look like a bigger brand. Most of these people, when they bring me in the meeting, they see a black young guy, they're like, "Wait, this is not the guy. We didn't think we were going to meet." And my name is Will. The reason why I use Will, so they wouldn't even know that it was Willie and they knew I was black. So when I come in the room and I start speaking, now they're like, "Oh, this guy knows what he's doing." What happens, they'll use your name and other things to see who you are and kind of use that as I would say a blockage to get you there, a barrier of entry. And that's really what you were talking about, the barriers of entry. But what we have to do, we got to get outside of our business, build the brand so no one knows if it's black, Chinese, whatever it may be. And there are ways we can do it. And I look at a lot of brands and I can tell you if you're black or white or what color you are, how you build the brand. That's one thing, but you got to understand that comes because of where we come from. So our culture, our identity is what we see. When we come from doing hair, we come from seeing other businesses. We look at it and we try to copy that business instead of doing research in our industry, which is where we're in. What I always do when I first started my business, I just went straight to YouTube and I looked at every person that I wanted to become like. All the big marketing companies, I looked at them and then I copied what the white guys were doing, from pitch decks to business proposals. 90% of my business is business proposal, and I never see the client, and they don't even know who I am, and they pay me through Square. They don't know who I am. Why? Because if you can't present your business in a professional way to show your history, you will lose. When I show them the proposal, most people I say, why did you become a part of my event? It was like, because your proposal was so beautiful, I knew you knew what you were doing. So if we just get that right, and then consistency of following through and doing what we say we're gonna do, you don't even have to have sale. Before Corona, 90% of my business, I've been working from home for 8 years, but doing this 100% because I was making so much and because I had systems in place. Also, the biggest thing is having systems in place. We don't have systems, and we don't have things. We wake up, we either have leads and sales, and we're following up. We wake up on hustle mode, and that was a thing I was going to say earlier. I think the reason why we're not in a lot of out of this, we're so quick to try to sell instead of building our business for the long haul, instead of hustles. We all are running our business like a hustle. When you run your business like a hustle, you will not grow the right way, because all you're trying to do is buy my product, this is what I'm trying to sell. You're not looking at videos on how to market right. You're not looking at videos on how to develop your brand. You're not looking at videos on how to partner like you're saying. You're not honing in and having the right proposal. I look at all these high-end clients from just having proposals and them not knowing who my brand was. It wasn't Will. It was Central Florida Deals. Now, because of Corona, I went with Marketing with Will because I have a following, and because I've been doing it for 8 years now, I can kind of stand behind myself. But if you can't stand behind yourself and you have those Fortune 500 companies that you have done business with, you can't do that with your personal brand if you just started out, because people don't know who you are and go back on that trust. They can't trust you if you haven't worked with these big brands or worked with people in the past. Also, if you go to a lot of our websites, like what I see, if you see a lot of white businesses or successful businesses, if you go on their website, the first thing you're going to see, as seen on Fox, as seen on whatever it may be. They use that because that shows you the credibility that I'm on the news, I'm on these platforms, and they use that so people say, man, this guy has to know what he's talking about if these news stations are bringing him on or if he's working with these clients. We have to get better in showcasing our talents and then, using that to sell to other people, because that's the only way you're going to get those deals and those six-figure deals.
And Will, I like what you say, because the number one thing that, like for me as an owner of my company, this is my number one goal. If I cannot sell my company, I don't have a company. If someone cannot buy what I'm building, then I don't have a company. And brand is a huge factor, because the brand is not just the logo that people see. It's an emotional attachment that people gravitate to, which in their minds and visualization, when they come to you, they're already expecting what they experience looking at what you've been showcasing. So at the end of the day, you really have to build your company. And how do we help our community? We help our community by taking all this information together. Let's create some online training, and let's tell business people, because my number one thing is, yeah, I'll give you information for free, but it won't hurt you. And when you invest, it hurts. And when it hurts, you have to do something about it. And that's the number one key thing, invest. If we put a curriculum there, and we take the time out to work together, let's invest. Let's put a pot. Let's do what the Chinese culture do. Let's put a pot through this training. And when we put this pot through the training, now we take this pot and we invest in the circle of the Black business. We can easily do that. But once again, if your brand is not in alignment if your brand is not in alignment to the altitude of where I'm going, it's going to cause friction, because eagles don't fly with flocks.
Come on.
It's a sad world as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, because a business owner is someone who just wants to see a paycheck to paycheck. An entrepreneur is who understands the lifestyle that they're leaving a legacy and the opportunity of selling their company and giving their employees opportunities to buy stocks out of their companies. That's where I'm headed. I'd rather lose pennies now so my money can stack up later in life while I'm still on vacation. Now I have passive income because I built something on something that had purpose. Because a lot of people are building businesses today in our culture because we are emotionally tired. And everybody knows when you make an emotional decision, you become free-spirited with your finances. And when you become free-spirited with your finances, you begin to lose out on the opportunity of budgeting properly and investing to where instead of your company having assets, it becomes a liability towards society and your community. Now you're hustling the next person that walks through that door that could have been a longevity consumer.
Right.
So
Thank you, Ramsey.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I hate to do what I have to do throughout this whole call. We do have a.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, group economic.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I apologize. I'm having some rain in my area and some connection issues. But I just want to circle back on a couple of key points that were just said, and then go back to Jazz with some questions we're getting in the comments. I'm going in and out.
No, you're good.
You're good.
Okay, someone just commented that. Okay. But everything you all both said was very valuable and very true. I want to just drive home the point that let's change the narrative and not allow certain cultures to be the standard or become synonymous with professionalism. Let's just take that as our takeaway, that professionalism comes in every color and in every culture. A lot of us are doing this, but we do need to take steps to, like I was trying to say before I got cut off the last time, to plan for the 100 and 200 year game and not be the hustler. So we have this high turnover and high burnout in businesses that don't last generationally, so we can create that generational wealth. Okay, Jazz, can you please let us know what others are saying in the group?
We have some general comments from the group. Not really any questions yet. But I know we only have about 9 minutes left, so.
Oh, well, I did want to say something before we got out of here. I wanted to go back to the point of the patients. All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things that, just to piggyback off the patients, that I also think we have to have is, one of the big things we do in our community is when we see someone selling something that looks like us, the first thing we assume is, oh man, we're gonna get the hookup, or man, hook me up, or can you discount? And what we have to understand is, just like the sister was saying about the cosmetic industry, is those business owners wear all kind of hats. So the number one thing that they're up against is overhead. So we have to understand that, okay, well, we don't go on Walmart, and if we feel that shirt is like $25 is too much, we don't go up to the counter and say, hey, can you give it to me for 20? We shop with Walmart and we do what we do. So if we understand that a certain business owner or business owners have a certain overhead, if we practice group economics, shop with those people or that person, we can help them lower that overhead. And then maybe within 6 months to a year, yeah, it may take that longer, even longer, that person can then have a cheaper overhead, which then whatever product that they're selling, they can match the competition that you feel is better than them. So that patience goes on to also, we hear that shop with me. Yes, it also goes back to that, and having that patience and having that understanding that their overhead isn't the same as a Walmart or wherever you're going to get your stuff.
And that's a valid point, Antoine. And I think Dr. Rainey wants to say something. I just wanted to say, for those of you who, this may sound like a lot of business talk or not, but it really goes back to the bigger community discussion of how we each play a role in our local Black economy and how that looks from both the business owner point of view and the consumer's point of view. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Right, and I just want to touch on and piggyback on Antoine, because everybody just mentioned the competition and how the Black community feel like they're in competition with everybody. And I say the community as a whole, because we have our moments where we do that in our industries, but you can't be afraid to collaborate, and I can definitely say that Chinese concept or Asian concept of coming together, putting in a pot, is coming. I'm gonna tell you that it's coming. I actually just had someone reach out to me today and ask me about helping them with a business plan, but also from a nonprofit perspective. And what did I do? I know she works on nonprofits. I collaborate with her. She's an affiliated partner. I'm calling her. We're gonna sit down with this person and we're gonna make it happen. Because I know that's out of the scope of what I do. I wear many hats. I don't have time for it. Know when somebody else can help.
Exactly.
Know when to collaborate. Know when to use. It's okay. We all gonna make it. But we have to change our mentality. And I said change the narrative, but don't lose your culture. Mm-hmm. It's a difference. You can do that. So Patrona, when I was saying, everything goes back to having a plan.
Mhm.
You as a consumer, you may not have to see a business plan to buy somebody's product, because I can see a review or a word of mouth to get me the product. However, in order to run your business effectively, you need to have some form of a plan, whether it's tailored how it's said to be, a marketing analysis, a financial statements, all this stuff, or it's just something that you can go by and update as you grow your business. You still need a plan. So moral of the story is we need to have more things in place to run our business more effectively. And we also need to learn how to collaborate and utilize our resources better so we can grow as a community.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rainey. I'm gonna thank everyone who joined us today. Do not click leave meeting yet. We have some things that we want to tell you, because I now hope that we all feel a little bit more like family, that you feel like you're not alone in this thing. You're not crazy. You're not having these thoughts and ideas on your own exclusively. There are people right next door to you who think the way you do and want to help you. So with that said, we are going to continue to have these conversations. Like I said, please look forward to next time. We will have some of the same panelists and hopefully new panelists. We want you to spread the word. We want you to bring a friend next time. And we will be here hopefully next week is the plan with some new panelists to continue the conversation. Register to our directory. You can sign up for the newsletter on blackbusinessorlando.org. That's blackbusinessorlando.org. We are not getting money for this. This was something that our president, our founder, our members literally came up with just a couple of days ago out of a sense of urgency, and not to be reactive, but to be responsive, to be responsible in our personal duties as Black people, as Black business owners, and just influencers. So Patrona, I'm going to kick it over to you to say the last few minutes.
Thank you. So this call, thank you so much. If we can applaud, I would applaud, but thank you so much, Cheyenne. You did a great job on the call today. So I'm gonna address Ebony real quick and just say I agree with everything you said, and I don't think that my point of view was for the businesses that are just not mentally where you are. And we need to make sure that we're available to help them grasp that idea to get to where, where you're saying to go. So I agree with that. But this meeting is not about just businesses. This meeting was about how we can come together to do, not talk, but to do. What can we do? So here are some call to actions and things that you can do today. So we definitely have the Black Business Orlando group. That is the largest group. There's another group now that's a business group, and listen, collaboration over competition. So between this group and that group, our group focuses on education. There are going to be groups for you to drop your ads, but not everybody is a business, and then we understand that. So there's going to be, all right, Ramses, I like your name because it's my last name. So have a good one. Thanks for coming on. But we in Black Business Orlando, we need volunteers, and we need volunteers that are actually going to move, that's going to actually do work, that's going to come with their talent and say, hey, this is what I could do, and use me as you can, use me as, and you're seeing them on the call right now. Cheyenne is that, Ebony is that, even Jazz is that, who else we have on the call? Lena is that, Lee is that, they're here on, if I forgot, Brandon is that, Alex is that. Like, they give so much of themselves and they give so much of their talent, but they also, this is a community. So if we're trying to help our community, we need a bigger effort. We need you. We need writers. We need content creators. We need people who are willing to go out into the community. We need people who are willing to go and talk to our school districts, make sure that our students are getting what they need. We need people today. We need people. Another thing that you can do, get behind the people who are running for office. So we had Monique on the call today. Get behind her cause. Let her break things down. If we have a town hall that's physical, then guess what? I need you guys, everybody. Bring your mother, your cousin, your sister, your brother. Bring everybody. Let's hear the information that we need to know to motivate us to the polls. When you see people like Miles that are out there protesting, when he gets off of his soapbox, when he gets down, when he comes home, when he figure out what they need to recharge, re-energize, and help protect them in the community. These are things that you could do today. If you know a family that's hungry, I mean, like, there's so many things that I don't want to make those blanket statements. So let me bring that back, right? So we're get together with Will Carey. He's actually trying to plan a physical rally, which I will be a part of, to talk to people, talk to the commissioners about what our voices are. But more importantly, we have to get to a place where we're taking care of each other. Like, I love you more than your attitude. I love you more than the mistreatment that I had at the business. I love you more than your aggravations with me or our misunderstanding, so that we can grow as a community. We can grow together, because guess what? While we're talking about, oh, cops need this training and cops need that training, there is a system of cultural racism within those organizations, and it's not going to stop because we want them to. So now how we have to protect our own community so that we can grow. And the reason why we're talking about business is because a lot of our efforts need to be funded. We need money. Our lawyers need money. Our educators need money in order to get them to where they need to be. So as business owners, we are going to be the leaders in the community to say, you know what, I'm gonna take my dollars and I'm gonna do this. Join an organization. So we're building a platform to where you can pay. Not everybody can pay, and that's okay, but you can pay, and your money can go towards bettering our community. So if you go on our website, you'll see that we have verified business owners. We have a directory. I don't want your money to go shopping. My sole purpose is to help this community grow and be better. So if somebody comes like a Purnell and say, yo, we're running for office, I can say, hey, the community is backing you. And we cannot just back with our fists. We have to be able to back with our dollars, and dollars are flowing. So as we put out and we get, we give. And so that's my spiel. Get involved with what is already being done. You don't have to create something new. You don't have to go and do something that this big old grand gesture. We have Cheyenne on the call who builds nonprofits. So guess what? Get with her. How can I help you? Do I need to write something? If you're great at taking pictures, you're helpful. Everybody is needed in this movement. So I want to leave you guys with that. Connect with each of the panelists, just like Ebony. Ebony posts pictures and videos every day of, information. You want to learn about real estate and you don't have the money to pay her, ask her if you can work with her, because I'm sure she needs assistance. There's a lot of things that we could do. Adopt a child. And I don't mean legally adopt a child, but there's so many kids of our kids who need inspiration, who need help, who need someone to look up to, who need somebody to just tell them that they're beautiful, that they're amazing, that they can achieve something. Take on somebody and say, hey, I'm not perfect for you. We need so much. In terms of this where this forum is, this is not just a conversation. My goal is to make sure we form groups of people that are pushing some sort of action. So our protesters are needed. Our rioters, we don't want you to riot, but our protesters are needed. We want people who can stay connected to the political, give ear to that. Wherever you land, let's form our group. So when we have our town hall meetings, it's not about us giving information. It's about the community reporting. Okay, this is what's going on here. This is what's happening here. This is what we need to do here. Plan of action here. And that's how we begin to act as a force, as a movement together.
That's right. Let's be strategic, family. Let's be strategic.
Yes.
All right, is that it?
Yeah, that's it. With that saying,
I'm kids take care of, girl.
I know. I'm passionate about it.
Yes, we love it.
I only want to be around us. I've been around them. I love them, but I like them, but I love us. And so at the end of the day, I want to see us move.
And it was your passion that brought this together. Make no mistake about it. It was that passion that brought us here together tonight. So thank you, Patrona. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, BBO. Again, go to our event page. There will be contacts for the people who you heard speak tonight. Everyone who attended, of course, is an attendee. So you can go to the attendee list and just click follow. And this is not a business commercial. Once again, this is a family meeting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Willie, if you're still on the call, I know that you're planning to do a town hall. Can you just drop that information in the group real quick so that somebody can put it in the group?
Yes,
So
I'm still here, but it's Sunday, 12 to 2 p.m. Downtown at the courthouse. And our goal is to develop a list of demands for the policing. And then what we're going to do as well is develop a follow-up protest so that our demands can be heard, because we want them to stay accountable, and we want some action items in this protesting. We don't just want to protest and then let the movement go away. I want the leaders to come out and talk, police officer talk, activists, and if you're there, we're going to let everyone be able to talk, voice your opinions. But what we want to do is make sure we follow up, right, and do another protest, what they have to say, because we don't want the runaround. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I understand. So that's what we're doing Sunday. I'll post that in the event.
Is Miles still on the call?
He's not, but I think he's going to be there as well Sunday. I'm going to be putting a lot of figureheads on there. I've been so busy running around and getting ready for this tonight.
Okay, so Miles is not on the call. I'm gonna end the call out. It's 8 o'clock. We've been here for 2 hours. I appreciate everybody and their time.
Thank you, ladies, man. Appreciate all y'all for putting it together.
If you have something to say and you weren't able to say something, we're gonna have a forum on the page. Thank you guys. This is about you. This is not about us. So I appreciate this energy tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a blessed night.
Good night, everybody.